the concept of borders, I think, sprung out of living in Tucson and the fact that borders are all around us. And it so happened to be a theme that was in common with other areas that we were looking to study.
Yeah, and I think the fact that both Emily and myself, we are interested in digital technology as a way to enrich experiences of our students. And that brought us together with Emily's interest in spatial aspects of technology and my interest in virtual exchange. And Borderlands kind of became that interesting focus, and I think that's how it started as a project.
The original research questions we were looking to answer, I think they multiplied and have shifted over time, but we set out to understand how students in these different areas are defining borders, how they lived borders, and how they document those borders. I think we were also interested in sort of what impact that this exchange and this platform had on how students understood borders. Did what we asked them to engage in shift their understanding of borders? If so, how? What does it look like to communicate in these spaces? And I think our data has given us even more things to think about, so I'm sure we'll have more to come.
Well, one other thing to think about is that we have borders everywhere, and we all experience borders differently. And that experience, partially depends on, the geopolitical situation, but also, cultural, linguistic aspects, So connecting students, because, generally young people in borderland regions, sort of creates an interesting platform to start conversations about borders. What kind of borders separate us and what kind of borders unite us. And that kind of brought the discussion into a more metaphorical plane when we were talking about borders as ideological borders, cultural borders, right, that exist in every community. So that kind of spurred another round of questions for us and for our students as well.
Across both of our exchanges, students felt that their perceptions of borders really shifted, how they manifest in different ways, language, culture, signage, but then bringing that personal dimension in, students bringing in multilingual paths that were unexpected. I think that's been across the board a finding that has been pretty rich.
For example, in my class, and my class worked with a group of students in northern Kazakhstan, there were many interesting questions that came up, in those conversations regarding, kind of civic education and civic awareness, and how can I tackle borders in my community, and what borders are good and what borders are actually detrimental for, what we do, what we want to become as a community. So those conversations kind of bring up more questions that go beyond just, learning about cultures and languages and just locations. They go into this whole idea of education and civic education, engagement, community outreach. And I think, future projects, we might want to go there and see what can be done. To think about, other locations and maybe bring more participants in this project to expand it. Also, we talked quite a bit about the, using mapping a little bit more kind of substantially in the next step, just to have students visualize more like working with the digital map as opposed to just using maps as a storage spaces. Now we want to use maps as a learning tool.
I want to get students to engage with borders in a way that makes them sometimes difficult to overcome. We want to sort of continue with this development of an idea of what a border is, but then what happens when borders seem to be unsurmountable, of issues that are not easily solved, of borders, of obstacles that are not easily overcome. So how do we work toward incremental change that isn't necessarily about, we solve that issue, and we sort of dealing with that ambiguity, that in between. And I think that would be a long-term goal of mine to flesh out enough where we could engage students in that kind of thinking. So.